Today is Thursday, August 21st, 2025. Can I have approval of the May 15th, 2025 Audit Committee meeting minutes, please? I can't move. I shouldn't move, should I? It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, if not, can you please vote? The minutes are approved. Our next item on the agenda is Mr. Emil Zanoff is going to come up and give us an internal audit quarter 4 fiscal year 25 activity briefing. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Mr. Hurley, members of the MARTA Audit Committee. Good morning. My name is Emil Zanoff, the head of the Internal Audit Department. The following presentation includes a briefing of the internal audit activity for MARTA's fiscal year 25 Q4, beginning April 1st and ending June 30th, 2025. As normal, we'll start with the most recent activities in the operational audit branch. We kicked off 4 major projects, audit reviews. The first one is around the new rail car delivery readiness. This is the Stadler rail cars. This is MARTA's #1 top, more expensive procurement. We've done several audits already as this project progressed, and we'll continue to do so. This is the time to see if we're ready to receive, the rail cars that are now being actually finished up by Stadler. The second one is fairly self-explanatory. That's the 2026 World Cup preparedness audit. This is going to be a little bit more stretched out, as this is a ongoing process as we speak. We're engaged with the project team that's responsible for that, but we're trying to verify that the right preparation steps are taking place. The third one is Oracle Primavera P6 and Unifier. Oracle Unifier, that's sort of like the core technology backbone in the capital program. Like from an accounting perspective, we use Oracle Financial, Oracle HR for the HR space. For the capital space, this is Unifier. That's where all the documentation and workflows are going and should go. So we're going to examine the utilization and implementation of that system. And finally, the capital program follow-up. This is an audit that I have mentioned at least several audit committees in the past. We're doing it in a co-source arrangement with a company called Towson Solution. There are a construction audit firm that specializes in that kind of work. They don't do design, they don't do construction, so that kind of inherent conflict of interest that might otherwise exist doesn't exist here. And they're looking at the policies and procedures within the central PMO office under the capital program. We know that a lot of progress has been made since the audit in 2022. We just wanted to draw a new baseline. How far has the central PMO gone, so we can kind of get it from there and continue to track their progress. In terms of finished audits, we finished the Summerhill BRT audits, identified 3 findings, significant findings which are being worked on. The first one has already been in reality completed. We just got the evidence yesterday that the first item's done, and we're working with the team there to meet those deadlines that are stated on the slide on the remaining 2 items. Rail station management, that audit identified 2 significant findings. They have remediation dates of end of November and end of September. I'm hoping that by the time we have the November audit committee meeting, we will have clarity as to the status of the remediation of those 2 items, and I'll be able to report back to you. These are prior operational audits that we've discussed several times in the past. The first one is the Indian Creek. We're going to be closing those 2 items and removing this line item from the audit committee slides. Clayton County, those remediation deadlines are in September, so by the November audit committee meeting, we'll have an update on the status. The employee timekeeping system, that's a teledriver replacement. It's a multi-year project. We had put a July placement, sort of like a placeholder deadline to make sure the project receives some level of funding, which they have. Now we're going to extend that deadline to based on the implementation rollout schedule. So at the November audit committee meeting, we'll have a different deadline which will be relevant to when that system will be implemented, now that there's money in the budget to go and deal with that procurement. Review of transit-oriented development. The Office of Real Estate acquired, with the help of the board, an asset management system. So with that, that audit will be satisfied. So overall, I think there's been a fair amount of movement, funding available. So we'll be dropping some of these items from this report, which is good news. I will switch over to the IT, the technology audits. During the quarter, we completed an audit of certain parts of our operational technology environment. Operational technology environment is different than our enterprise IT environment. It has to deal with operations. We've identified 3 significant findings and 2 moderate findings. Because of the security sensitive nature of those findings, I would ask that we perhaps not go into the level of detail of those findings, because we don't want to feed the bad guys any intel. The end user security was an audit that we kicked off in Q4, and it's in field work. End user security has to do with the security of the laptops and other network devices that we all use as employees and our contractors use. This is something we will routinely audit, because that's sort of the first line of defense. We want to make sure that our users are properly secured, so we don't allow, malware to enter into our environment as much as we can help it. These are prior IT audits with open findings that we continue to monitor. The software maintenance and the RT hardware asset management, which is the last item. The board authorized money in the last several months for the procurement of several tools that will help the technology department get to where they need to be. So I'm hoping that we'll see progress there now that these tools can be acquired. And it takes a little bit of time to deploy them, right? It's not off-the-shelf CD. You have to actually implement them in the environment. So I acknowledge that, and I'm hoping to be able to update some of these items by November. Windows 10 end of life. Good news there. I think Tyson and his team have already kicked off that replacement, and I think the authorities' target date to get it done is by the due date that we see on the slide. So we already are communicating to the employees, get ready for the replacement. Here's how the replacement will be rolled out. So very good progress there. And then we'll have to figure out how we deal with the third audit. I'm waiting to get some new deadlines so I can update the audit committee on what those deadlines are, so we don't it's not helpful to continue to carry past due items. We got to have realistic timelines, and we got to monitor how that landing path transpires towards those timelines. So we'll update that, I hope, by November. Switching gears towards the contract audit group, very, very busy quarter with 36 audit projects done, and another 23 were in the pipeline at the same time. Good news is it was a very clean quarter, only 19,000 in unallowable overhead costs in our overhead rate reviews. And Kevin and I were talking in the hallway before the meeting, because the more we audit these contracts, the cleaner they get, because our partners on the consultant side, they learn that their costs will be reviewed, their overhead rates will be reviewed, and we tend to see cleaner and cleaner submissions as that process takes place. Sometimes we have new vendors, they learn how to deal with government and with MARTA, and then we kind of get up on that learning curve and improvement curve after that. But it was a very clean quarter, which is good news. This is the final slide, the fraud, waste, and abuse summary. We were involved in 4 investigations. The first one was not substantiated, but other irregularities were found that were communicated to the senior leadership team of that specific department, and they applied discipline to the involved employee. And I know what that is. The second and the third one were not substantiated. Completely not substantiated. The fourth one is an allegation of unethical behavior. This was kind of an ongoing investigation kind of towards the end of that quarter. We since then finished it. I'll update the slide for November, but substance was found and discipline was applied in that particular situation as well. Overall, for the year, we completed 107 contract audits, identified $89K in unallowable cost in overhead rate reviews, and approximately $4 million in unsupported cost in various cost and price analysis and change orders. In addition, we finished 8 operational audit engagements and 3 IT/cybersecurity audits during the year, as well as completed 8 investigations throughout the year. So overall, my team they don't stop. It's like a continuous process, and we continue to support the authority based on our charter and responsibilities. So with that said, Madam Chair, I'll return the floor back to you.
Thank you so much. And I just want to say, we really do appreciate it. We know how much work goes into keeping us on track with audit. It's very important. We need it, and we appreciate you and your entire staff for what you do.
Yeah, thank you.
Do we have questions, Mr. Frierson?
Yeah, thank you, Emil. Appreciate it very much. With the purchasing of this new software that we're purchasing for the capital programs and even for the asset management programs, does the audit team get a chance to go through a training to understand that software and what can be used to get the information that they need from it?
Generally speaking, we do train our employees on that kind of software, and I'll use Oracle Primavera because that's a huge system.
Right.
So my employees, they primarily do a lot of self-training and some help holding by the host organization, in this case the capital program, because a lot of them are customized. So for example, we had to learn from the capital program what their folder structure is, where different individual documents go, where does the risk register go, where does the project plan go. But through a mixture of online learning that we do on our own and help from the client organization, because they have to give us access, right? We can't audit anything or pull data if we don't have the access, which we do by policy, but we still need to technically get enabled to get access. So we do have that kind of training on the technology side. So in general, we do get training on how to use these systems after they get deployed.
Okay.
So I hope that gives you the answer that you're
It
looking for.
does, absolutely, absolutely. Because I know that you have to do some forensic audits at some level, maybe in some of the software, just to get what you need out of it. And that's good to know. I just didn't know how well they will welcome an audit team to come in to look at these things, but that's good.
They tell me they love to have audit there, but I'm not sure I believe it all the time, but I'll accept it.
Right. Well, it's good, and I'm glad to see those softwares have been purchased and being implemented. That's critical for us to how we're trying to track these programs, right? And you understand that, so I'm glad to see that we're involved in that in an audit standpoint. So, all right, thank you. That's it.
Thanks.
Ms. Pollock?
Thank you. This actually may end up being a question for Carrie, actually, but I've noticed that we continue to sort of have a similar finding throughout a number of these capital projects, that there's a lack of PMP or it's out of date. So I guess I'm wondering, what are we doing before we get to audit to ensure that that doesn't happen?
Good morning. Thank you for the question. So in this case, this was the Summerhill project. We are required by FTA to update the PMP. So it's a FTA prescriptive process for the PMP. We had a design phase PMP. We had this is the construction phase PMP. The PMP was actually updated, but was not distributed. So we did have that done. We are now kind of formalizing that, and like Emil said, we did submit that to the PMOC, which is our FTA oversight. So again, just to be clear, we did have one in place, so that does have all the communications and kind of what the phasing of the project is and kind of the organizational status and all those things. It just had not been formalized and adopted.
Okay, and that's sort of a consistent story as we look back on other like findings from prior projects that we don't necessarily have an updated PMP, like Clayton, and then there was another on here too. Is that sort of consistent, that type of issue? I mean, I know they're not all due to FTA, but.
This, these major projects are the first of their kind in a while, right? So to say it's consistent, it's 2 projects. Obviously, the Tiger Grant one is under FTA. The Clayton O&M is not, so it doesn't have as prescriptive of a process. Again, there is a PMP in place. It's just we need to get better at updating them in a timely fashion when we move from one phase to the next. And we do have a number of checklists that we follow to make that transition anytime we throw something over the wall, as we call it, from planning into final design. We have a number of different checklist items. We just need to make sure it's on that checklist that update happens when we make the transition from one project phase to the next.
Okay, thank you. And then just sort of another question. I could not be further from an auditor, so this might be a really dumb, but have we ever audited, or is there even a way to audit sort of our like community engagement side, that sort of practice, since it relates to so many of our projects?
I don't believe we have audited the community engagement. I'll go on a limb and say there is a way to audit it. Most things can be audited in one way or another. So, but I don't believe we have actually audited specifically. The only thing that gets close to this is auditing the outreach to the homeless population within the system. We've audited that part, but in terms of communication, just changes in projects, we have not audited that.
Okay, and I don't know that it needs to like rise to the level of an audit, but I do think it would be helpful if we took kind of a closer look at how we're conducting engagement, who we're reaching, that type of level of what's going into the projects, what is being reported out, that type of thing. So again, not to put more work on the auditors' plates. I know they're so full. We see that, and we appreciate you.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it may not be an audit, but I do think it might merit some additional scrutiny.
Ms. Scott?
Quick question. On page 8, fraud, waste, and abuse summary, you mentioned discipline. Are you allowed to, or is it permissible to state type of discipline, for instance, suspension versus termination? And are there guidelines in place based upon the offense?
I don't know if it's legally permissible relative to confidentiality or potential lawsuits, so I will defer to our attorneys, and typically I don't discuss it here. I know what it is, but I refrain from disclosing it for those concerns, but I'll turn it to Dwayne, because I'm not a lawyer, so I can't tell you.
Right. For instance, if it was the first time, second time, or depending on the type of offense, or just curious because the word discipline.
Right. I don't know of any legal prohibition to putting that in a report. This particular person, are you asking what happened to this particular person?
Right, because it says ongoing. So
yeah, that one has been completed, right?
That is now completed, and I can say what it was.
Yeah, this is
without naming the individual, but that individual was terminated.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
That
The first one was not on the top line.
Thank you.
Any more questions? And do we have any, oh,
Madam Chair, if I may, I just want to clarify one thing, because I just don't want to assume that it's known. When we write these investigation reports, we do not recommend discipline or type of discipline or anything. We just document the facts based on the investigation, and then we present the investigation report to typically the C-level person responsible for that area. We never say this person should be disciplined or disciplined in a particular way. So I just wanted to kind of go on the record to say that, so there's no assumptions or misunderstanding.
So it's sent to the C level, and
Yes.
then there should be guidelines in place.
And then it depends on the circumstances of the particular incident or case. They work with human resources to make sure that they're not stepping over legal or ethical or HR boundaries.
just the facts?
Yes,
That's all you give, right? You're-
that's correct.
Do we have anything else that needs to come before the audit committee? If not, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.